Well, guys, 2013 is now officially over, and like I mentioned before, I cannot be any more happier. 2013 was a horrible year for me, and I am so damn happy that's over. And I can only hope that 2014 brings in many, many good things. And I have a lot of stuff planned for you guys this year, and hopefully I will be able to pull that off for my YouTube channel. But now that 2013 is over, I can finally talk about my favorite film of 2013, which is, of course, by, well, the title says, Man of Steel. Oh, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking at all. I mean, I know I would probably make a joke about my favorite movie of the year before I actually announce my favorite movie of the year, but, no, not joking. This is my favorite movie of the year. It's 1, 2, 20, 30, and there they all go. Yep, all my subscribers, they just went. Just, I don't care. I really, really don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care if you'll say I'm dumb because I like this movie. I don't care if you say I don't know anything about film in general because I like this movie. I don't give a shit. I fucking love Man of Steel. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. I don't care at all that I said Man of Steel and that I like Man of Steel, okay? I don't care what you'll have to say to that. I love Man of Steel, okay? I am a fucking Superman fan, and I love Man of Steel. I am proud enough to say I love Man of Steel, and I'm proud enough to explain in detail, graphic, extensive detail, why I love Man of Steel, and I'm not ashamed to do that whatsoever, because I fucking love Man of Steel. I loved it the day I saw it, I still love it today talking about it. Hell, I bought the fucking movie on Blu-ray and DVD! That should show you how much I fucking love this movie. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I love Man of Steel. I love everything about it, and I don't care what anyone has to say about it. Okay, I should probably explain. This is probably the most split down the middle, polarizing film I have ever reviewed, period. And to be quite honest, I'm pretty sure this is going to be the most polarizing film I've ever reviewed in my entire lifetime. There is no other movie I have ever reviewed, or I've ever heard of, for that matter, where it has been so damn split down the middle, black and white, no in-between whatsoever. You either love this movie, or you either passionately despise it. Not even hate it. Passionately despise this film or love it. And I don't care what anyone says, I fucking love Man of Steel. Does it have some problems? Oh, hell yeah, it has some problems. I mean, fuck whatever I said in my first impressions video about it being perfect and absolutely amazing. It has some problems, okay? I bought it on DVD and I bought it on Blu-ray, so you know what? I watched it over and over again. That's why I'm reviewing this, because it does have some problems. And I will admit some of the problems that it does have in this review. But I'm also going to tell you guys why I love The Man of Steel. Okay, I love this movie and I will explain why. But I'll also tell you why I didn't like the movie, so it's fair. It is going to be a fair and honest review. I just want to tell you guys right here, I am not a person that goes along with the crowd on any single movie. If I like a movie or if I hate a movie, it's my opinion alone. Not because a lot of people really like the movie or a lot of people really hated the movie. I like a movie or I hate a movie because I personally thought it was bad or I personally thought it was good. I personally think Man of Steel is good. I don't think it's good because the main consensus is that it's good. Oh, hell no, it's not the main consensus. It's because I enjoyed the movie. If you guys wanted to know if I went on the bandwagon with any movie, this movie should prove that, because I love it and yet everyone else hates it. If I ever make a list of the top whatever films that everyone hates but I love, this is not only going to be number 1, but this is going to be every single slot on that list. Top 100 films that everyone hates but I love, Man of Steel on every single one of those slots. Don't care, I love it that much. I mean, I can understand why people don't like it, okay? Don't get me wrong, I can understand why people like it, but don't like it. But there are some fucking stupid reasons. Now, again, if you did not like this movie, that's fine. If you didn't like the movie, that's your opinion. Fine. But I'm saying I do like it, so don't come to me and say, oh, you're an idiot, or oh, this or oh, that, because it's just my opinion. But some of the reasons why people hate this movie are ridiculous. Like, the main problem that a lot of people have with this movie is the action, which people compare this movie to the Transformers movies and saying how the action is completely, you can't tell what's going on, or the action is just there just to get in dumb, premature 13-year-old morons who don't know anything about story structure and just like dumb, mindless action. There was only one point in this movie where that was really evident to me, and that was in the John Kent tornado scene. I'll be getting to that in a minute. That was something I didn't like about this movie at all. I will be getting to that later. But the action in the movie, I thought was fine. And people say that it was filmed poorly. It could not have been filmed any better. The action scenes in this movie, I thought, were perfectly done. They weren't too long, and they weren't too short, and they were never at all anticlimactic. They were just perfect. There were 3 main action scenes in the movie, and that's what an action movie should have. In fact, that's actually a rule of action movies. You're supposed to have 3 main action scenes in a movie. They're supposed to be big, and they're supposed to be memorable. But each and every single action scene needs to get bigger and better than the last one. None should at all be none should be shorter than the other. Each one should get bigger and better as they go along. And that's what this movie did. It had 3 main action scenes. The big opening action sequence on Krypton, the whole Battle of Smallville sequence in the middle of the movie, and at the end, the final showdown between Zod and Superman, as well as them taking out the world engines, all that stuff. 3 main action scenes with other little ones sprinkled in between were perfect, and each action scene was filmed perfectly, which was a big issue I had with the film going into it, because Superman's a character, you know, he flies really fast and he runs really fast, and I thought that was going to be a big problem with the movie, which was like, they were going to have him going really too fast, and they were going to have each other hitting each other too fast, and it would be really unfocused, and you couldn't tell what was going on. But somehow they did that perfectly. Like in the Battle of Smallville sequence, they have Faora punching out all these military soldiers at super top speed, which was a badass moment. My jaw just dropped to the floor in those action sequences, especially that one. Faora was just a total badass in this movie. She stole the show completely. She should have her own damn movie. She should have been the main villain of the movie, at least in my opinion. I mean, as much as I love Zod in this movie, she should have been the main villain. She was a total badass in this movie. But I digress. The action scenes I thought were fine. I thought they were perfectly done, and they could have been far, far worse to the people that did not enjoy them. But really, when you get down to it, and people say that this movie has too much action. That was the main problem with a lot of people, you know, when this movie had first come out, which I was just baffled from, and I still am baffled with a lot of the people, you know, hate towards this movie. But, you know, there's a lot of action in the movie, which I don't agree with. I think there was a perfect amount of action, like I just mentioned before. But to quote Kevin Smith talking about Superman Reborn, it's a Superman movie. You gotta have fucking action in a Superman movie. Or, in general, comic book movies. Or, even in general, action blockbuster movies of the summer. You gotta have action. When you get down to it, it may be a Superman movie, but when you get down to it, you just need to have action scenes. You need to have Superman punching somebody. You need to have Superman flying around doing his thing and doing what we all know and love him for. That's why we go to see a Superman movie, to see all this action happen. And that was the thing I loved. One of the main things I loved the most about this movie was that the action was featured prominently. One of my complaints about a lot of the other previous Superman films, like the Christopher Reeve Superman films, and especially Superman Returns, was that there weren't too many action scenes. But I can let the Christopher Reeve Superman films go. Superman, the movie, to Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I can let those movies go because, again, those movies were made way back in the late 70s, early 80s. So they didn't really have too much of a budget, and they had a lot of limitations that kept them from making big action scenes, okay? But Superman Returns had no excuse not to have as much action as this movie did. That movie was made in 2006, or at least it came out in 2006. It had $250 million budget, somewhere around $250 million. And you're just sitting there wondering, when you're watching Superman Returns, $250 million on what? Like, to quote Roger Ebert, they must have taken a limousine to the John any single time someone had to go to the bathroom That's one of the main reasons why I hated Superman Returns. That wasn't the main reason, that was just sort of like the icing on the cake, like the thing, like the fuel that added to the fire of why I hated Superman Returns, which was, there was a lot of money going into that, and that was the first Superman movie in almost, like, 2 decades, and nothing to show for it. $250 million budget and nothing, no action, which it was boring as hell. Not to mention Superman was acted totally out of character. He was a deadbeat dad, Superman. He was also a creepy stalker. There was no action in the movie. It was just horseshit. It was a horrible Superman movie. And yet, when people that hate Man of Steel talk about this movie, they literally go, well, you know what? So at least Superman Returns had this. At least Superman Returns had that. And yet you were the guys that bitched at Superman Returns. You bitch at Man of Steel for having too much action and too much, action going on, but then you bitch about Superman Returns having no action. So even if there was, I'm going to go along and say, hypothetically speaking, I'm going to go along with your claim that there's too much action in Man of Steel, and that there's too much, violence and action scenes going on. Maybe that is because they looked at some of the complaints with Superman Returns and said, you know what, there was not, a lot of people didn't like Superman Returns because there was no action scenes in that movie, so let's put a lot of action scenes in this Superman movie. After all, this is a reboot, isn't it? It's supposed to fix some of the problems of the previous franchise as well as the previous entry in the series. That's why there's too much action, to you. I never thought that there was too much action in the movie. I thought there was just enough. And I didn't like the movie because, it's because I'm a dumb teenager and I only like action and boobies and Michael Bay action and everything. If I like Man of Steel because I like Michael Bay-ish styled action, wouldn't that mean I like Michael Bay movies? I fucking hate Michael Bay movies. There's not one damn Michael Bay movie out there that I actually enjoy. I hate all the Transformers movies. You can bet your ass I'm not seeing Transformers Age of Extinction. I hated Pain and Gain. That is his worst movie to date and probably definitely one of the worst movies ever made. If I like Man of Steel because of the Michael Bay-ish type action, that would mean that I would have to like fucking Michael Bay movies. And I don't. I fucking hate that bastard. And I think he's just a giant fucking hack and should be taken out of Hollywood and should be kept away from any fucking writing utensil at all. Or taken away from a camera of any sort. Just fuck Michael Bay. But I digress. But the action in the movie I thought was fine. There was enough action to go along. The action scenes were never too short, they were never too long, and they were never anticlimactic. And it was a big improvement from Superman Returns, because Superman Returns had no action. So I was happy to go into this Superman movie with a lot of action happening. And because in looking at this movie, I can say to myself, well, you know what, I can definitely see where the budget was spent. And unlike Superman Returns, where you're just sitting there going, $250 million on what? Again, limousines to the John? No. This movie, at least you can look at it and say, you know what, yeah, $225 million, something like that. For this movie, I can definitely see why. That's pretty damn expensive. I can see where it was spent. Fine enough. And, a lot of people say that the action just completely distracts away from the plot of the movie. And, that's where the Michael Bay comparison comes in from. The difference between this movie and the Transformers movies is that the Transformers movies focus too much on the action and have no story. But unlike Man of Steel, the action in the Transformers films are horseshit. At least with Man of Steel, if they didn't pay attention to the story, which they did, at least the action is good and you can understand what's going on. Unlike in the Transformers films, where the action is total and utter shit, and you can't see anything that is going on. It's up too close, it's too shaky, you can't understand what the fuck is going on. They never focus on the story, there's a difference between the two. Man of Steel has good action, it does focus enough on a story, and we can understand what the story is about. Transformers films, on the other hand, have shitty-ass action that you can't understand what's going on, and no focus on a story, and even the story that they do have is completely clusterfucked and you have no idea what's going on. There's a difference between the two. That's why I like Man of Steel, and that's why I hate Transformers films. Except the 1986 animated film, that is God. And so is Optimus Prime. Well, he's kind of Jesus because he sacrificed himself for us, but that's, again, neither here nor there. But, I found the action scenes fine. I love the action scenes in the movie. I thought that they were perfectly fine. I didn't think they distracted away from the plot. I didn't think that there was too much of it. I thought that they were just fine. They were perfectly fine. You know, again, it was a big, big, big improvement from Superman Returns. You know, there was no action scenes in that, and that movie was incredibly boring. And you know, this movie had a lot of action scenes, and it wasn't boring. It had a good story, good enough story, and a lot of action with it, and that was fine for me. That was fine. I mean, again, when you get down to it, it's a Superman movie. You gotta have action in it, and that was something that was lacking in the previous Superman films. The first four had a free pass. Superman Returns had no free pass whatsoever, and had no reason to have as little action as it did. And when it did have action, it was anticlimactic and extremely short. Here, it had the perfect amount, and it was just fine. I enjoyed it. I thought the action scenes were perfectly fine. Another thing about this movie that I just love is the story and just the overall moral and message of the movie, which is choice. Which is pretty eminent when we find out that Kryptonians are born, not naturally like they are on Earth, but instead not really born but manufactured. They have a predetermined destiny to either be a worker or a warrior or a leader or a scientist or just anything. They don't really have any choice to do what they want to do. They're predetermined, and they're manufactured more like, you know, like products instead of actual people. And to have that story be your story of a Superman film is great, because the thing that makes Superman strongest, and the thing that we love about Superman the most, and what truly makes him a strong character, is not his super strength, but his choice to do everything that's right, to use his powers not for evil, but for good, and to do the right thing. That's perfect for Superman. This story perfectly showed that. You know, that it further pushed the idea of Superman. It sort of kickstarted the whole idea of Superman being able to choose what he wants to do, and choosing to use his powers for good. I thought that was great, and I thought that worked perfectly for General Zod, the main villain in the movie, because, well, in the Superman 2, he really had no other motivation besides revenge, which is a fine enough and simple to understand motive, but this was a great way to have your villain's motivation be clear. That's another thing I really like about this movie. This didn't just take everything that made the other Superman movies good. This did a lot of different things. It did its own things. Like, I was a bit disappointed that they didn't use the whole kneel before Zod line, but I was fine with that also at the same time of being a little bit disappointed, because this showed that them not using that line showed that they're making their own Superman movies, and they want to make their own memorable moments, and they did that with flying colors. They did that perfectly. So I like that they were choosing to do their own thing, making their own memorable Superman moments, by not having take other memorable Superman moments and making those their memorable Superman moments. So I was fine with that, but I love the villain General Zod in this movie, because he's in a way sympathetic. Like, he's one of the Kryptonians that was born, well, manufactured to have a predetermined destiny. His being, well, as the name entitles, General Zod. And it's almost sympathetic in a way, because it's not that he wants to do this because he wants revenge or anything, but he has no choice but to do this. He has no choice but to want to keep his race safe and sound, and want to try to, jumpstart this, the Kryptonian race again. He has no choice but to do it, and that's almost sympathetic in a way. I wish they had a couple more scenes, though, to reinforce that, but overall, I still love this villain. He was very, almost sympathetic, because he had no choice but to do what he was predetermined to do, to protect his race at any cost, and if anyone got in the way of that, he just got rid of them, like he was trying to do with Superman in this movie, which gives a reason for the action. The action in the movie actually had a reason to be here. It wasn't just there because, oh, hey, it's a Superman movie, gotta have a couple action scenes here and there. The action scenes actually had purpose, because he wanted to get rid of Superman because he was in his way of jump-starting the Kryptonian race again. Although it was a bit questionable how Superman didn't want the Kryptonian race to come back. I mean, that is his race, isn't it? And after all, that is the reason why Jor-El sent him to Earth, to be the bridge between the Kryptonians and the humans. So, yeah, it was really questionable and almost downright evil that Superman destroyed the scout ship with the whole Genesis chamber in it. That was kind of questionable, and again, that's one of my complaints about this movie. But I love General Zod in this movie, and he was a big step up from Terrence Stamp Zod in Superman 2 and as well as Superman 1, a little that we saw him in Superman 1. So he was a big step up from that. I love that they made him a sympathetic, almost like villain, and actually had a better purpose to have him be evil and have him doing what he's doing. And it further reinforced the whole idea that Superman, what makes him strong is his choice to do what's good and to do what's right. And I love that so much about this movie. I just loved it, just, I loved it. And now, in getting back to Superman, another big complaint about this movie is that there wasn't any character development. Like, we don't really get to know about Clark's personality or really why he likes to save people. We just find out that, well, he likes to save people and just, that's it. Just he likes to save people. But I have a little argument about that. I will be getting to something in a minute, but isn't the main reason why people don't enjoy Superman as a character is because we don't really know of him all that much other than he likes to save people? And this isn't a complaint about the movies, this is about the comic books. People don't like Superman in the comic books because he doesn't really have too much of a personality, and we don't really know why he likes to save people. So, honestly, if people complain that we don't learn about Superman in this movie other than he likes to save people, that's not really a complaint for this movie, but really the comic books. They don't come back and say, oh, this movie didn't explain Superman, why he likes to do what he likes to do, but the comics did, because the comics didn't explain it either. He just did good stuff because, well, he liked to do good stuff. That's really about it. This movie, I personally do believe it explained why Clark, or why Superman does what he does, and where he learned it from. His father, Jonathan Kent, played by Kevin Costner in this movie, said to him that, one day you're going to choose to be, either good or bad, and whether, you make that decision, it's going to change the world someday. Again, reinforcing that Superman, has a decision, unlike the, genetically bred and engineered Kryptonians on Krypton. But I do think that they actually explain how or why Clark, wants to save people and wants to protect people, even if it means his own life. Why he puts himself second and puts the people, the innocent people that he knows and loves, first, is because that's what Jonathan Kent did. Did he not? Jonathan Kent risked his safety and his well-being, as well as his wife's well-being, protecting Clark and taking Clark in when he landed on the Kent farm. He protected, he risked his life and he risked his safety. And he also risked his life and ended up dying protecting the ones that he loved, Clark, when he got eaten up by the fucking tornado. Clark learned to put himself second and to protect the ones that he loves, the human race, from what his father did. His father taught him when he took Clark in. And when he protected Clark and told him not to save him when the tornado was coming and when the tornado ate him. He learned from his father. He learned to put himself second and put the ones that he loved first from his father, because that's what his father did. So this movie did explain why Clark Kent really loves to protect people, because that's what his father did. That's what Jonathan Kent did, and that's where he learns to put himself second and to protect the human race, even if it means his own safety and his own life. And that's where he learns it from. People say that we don't know why. All we know about him is that, all we know about his personality is that he likes to save people. We don't know why he likes to save people. There's your reason right there, because his father did that for him, and he can do it to the other human races. He can do it to the rest of the human race. His father, a complete stranger to him, a member of the human race, took in this alien, took in this completely unknown person, protected him, risked his own safety, and risked his life to protect him, and that's what Clark does in return, risking his self, his life, his safety for everybody else. That's where he learns it from. So the people that say we don't know why we don't learn, we don't know why Clark Kent does what he does, why he saves people, and why he protects people, that's your reason right there, because his father did it for him. So There you go. And we learn enough about his personality. We learn enough about Clark Kent in this movie. He likes to save people. How is that not enough? That's all that people say Superman is about. That's the thing that people complain that Superman is about. That all he does is save people. That's his only personality trait. That's not very interesting. So they just transcended that from the comics to film. And they did it perfectly. And they do show that why Clark Kent saves people. You know, in the comic books, it was because his parents told him that's the right thing to do. But here, they did it in a more subtle way, in a way that didn't need exposition and didn't need dialogue to do that. They showed it and gave the audience more thought. They let the audience think about it themselves, and that's the way I thought about it. At least that's the way I look at it. So that's the way I personally. That's something I loved about this movie. You know, it was. Jonathan Kent protected his son. He risked his safety, and Clark returns the favor by doing what he did. So that's just something I love. That's at least the way I look at it. I know maybe reading a little bit too far into this, into the movie, but I don't care. I love that part of the movie. It may, again, maybe reading a little bit too far into it, but, you know, you guys are asking questions. People that didn't like this movie are asking questions, and I just gave you an answer, so I hope that helps. But that's just something that, the certain way to look at it, at least from my viewpoint. So yeah, the people that say that Clark Kent, we don't know much about Clark Kent, or all that we know about Clark Kent, it's not really explained why he does what he does. Well, there's your reason right there. So that's all I have to say about that. Wow, that's a lot of time I spent talking about that. The acting in the movie I thought was great overall. I thought it was well casted, although Amy Adams, I didn't really think she had much of a personality with Lois Lane. Lois Lane in the movie, I thought, at first was great, like she's making a bunch of wisecracks and she's, you know, saying to the military, so can we stop the dick measuring contest and really get down to business? But that kind of disappeared, just out of nowhere in the movie. It really just disappeared and never really came back, and I really wish it did. And again, could have Amy Adams just had dyed her hair? I know it's a nitpick. I'm not taking taking anything away from the movie, but you know, could she have just dyed her hair? I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, I really hated that she didn't do that, but again, it's a nitpick. Not going to take anything away from the movie. But yeah, she at first looked like she was going to be a really fun, really, you know, really snippy, really, you know, almost asshole-ish, really kind of rude Lois Lane. Why we all love Lois Lane. But it kind of disappeared almost entirely from the movie, so I really didn't like that at all. Another thing about Lois Lane that I don't really understand about the movie, which is, and that's something that was really surprising. Amy Adams does great in almost every single movie she's in. She's never underacting, but here she's kind of underacting, and she really doesn't have much of a personality. And again, the personality kind of just drifts away and never really comes back. So I didn't really like that at all about the movie. Another thing about Lois Lane I didn't like about this movie is in the scene where Clark is first going up to meeting Faora, and they go up to the Black Zero to meet Zod for the first time. Lois Lane, Faora's like, you know, she has to accompany me. Lois Lane, you come with me. No reason why she is brought up on the ship. I could have sworn when I first saw this movie they explained that, and that's the reason why I didn't bring this plot hole up in my first impressions video, but there actually was no reason at all. I watched the movie multiple times on Blu-ray, and I could not at all think of a reason why, or find a reason why that she was brought onto the ship. She really is just there just to be given expository dialogue by Jor-El on how to defeat Zod in the end. But why couldn't you just give that to Superman? I mean, he was on the ship, he did have the Kryptonian key, why couldn't you just give it to Superman? I mean, he is the main character, he is the title character, Man of Steel, why couldn't you just give it to him? It doesn't make any sense. So that was something that's something I actually do agree on a lot with the people that hate this movie. It just didn't add up at all. Really hated that about this movie. Another thing I just despised about this movie was the shaky cam. And ironically, it's not used in the action scenes, which I thought it was definitely going to be utilized there a lot more. But the shaky cam is used in some of the most unnecessary scenes ever. Of all the scenes in the movie to use shaky cam in, they use the most during dialogue scenes. Yeah, you heard me right. They use the shaky cam the most during scenes where people are just standing up, like I am right now, or sitting down and talking to each other. No reason at all. There's like this is most prominent in this one scene in the movie where Clark's about to go up to the Black Zero and him and Lois are in front of the military and they're holding hands and the camera zooms in on their faces and it's a really nice touching moment. But it's completely ruined when the camera zooms in on him and it's shaking like crazy. It's annoying as hell. It's hard to tell if that's just the movie or if a fucking earthquake is going on and for some reason the earthquake is only affecting your TV, nothing else around you. That's very odd earthquake, very uncommon but very odd earthquake going on. That's something I hated. If you're gonna have shaky cam, one, don't use shaky cam, it was a bad idea. But two, if you're gonna use shaky cam, at least use it in scenes where it kind of makes sense to have the shaky cam, like action scenes. They do have shaky cam in some sections of the film, it does work, like when Clark's flying, like that makes sense to have it there. But when you're just having characters sit around or stand around talking to each other, it makes no sense at all, and it's just completely unnecessary, and it ruins the scenes. It doesn't make it more intense, it makes them incredibly goofy and ridiculous. It's just stupid. Stop with the fucking shaky cam. Why is this a common trend with movies now? Like, why is this a recurring problem with almost every single movie nowadays? At least every single action movie nowadays. It doesn't make your scene look more ridiculous. It doesn't make your scene look more realistic, especially if you're just having characters sit down or stand up talking. It makes them ridiculous and stupid. If you're going to use them, at least use them in scenes where it makes sense, like action scenes or flying scenes. When you have characters just standing around talking, it makes no sense at all. Another thing about the camera work, I'm a kid on YouTube and I can afford a fucking tripod. Why can't you? You're a fucking director, Zack Snyder. You can't afford a fucking tripod? I mean, I know some of them can be expensive, but they can't be too expensive for a $225 million budget. Hell, I don't even have a tripod. I'm using 2 chairs, a box, my VCR, and 3 Harry Potter books, and I can still afford a good fucking camera work. Damn. I mean, come on, Zack Snyder. Seriously. Like, to quote Rob Walker, newsflash, jackoffs, tripods, invest in them. Exactly, fucking invest in tripods, damn it. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. You can't just have 2 characters sit down talking and have it be a steady picture like this. You have to shake the fucking camera around or get someone with Parkinson's to direct. Just chill out. That's probably something I should really figure out, I should probably do right now, chill out. But yeah, that's just something I really hated about this movie. I despised the shaky cam in this movie, just despised it. But something else that everyone despised in this movie is, not really, the movie's been out for a while, so I'm not putting spoilers in the title or anything, but Superman ending up killing Zod at the very end of the movie. And why am I not pissed off about this? Well, what did you expect to happen? I mean, this isn't Zod's not a character like the Joker or the Riddler where you can just lock him up in jail and then they'll eventually break out or whatever. He's a super-powered fucking tyrant being that can pretty much make those metal bars that he'll be standing in front of in jail into fucking butter, for crying out loud. So, it wasn't a character that you could just throw in jail and have him sit there for a while. This is an evil version of Superman. You can't just lock him up and have it be that. No way. If you guys were expecting Zod to make it out alive at the end of this movie, you're an idiot. You were just setting your own self up for disappointment. And again, I like that Superman ends up killing Zod because the whole movie is about choice and about decision. And it was his decision to kill Zod. It was a responsible thing to do. If he had just left Zod alive, because that seems to be the right thing to do, it would seem irresponsible. So it was only the responsible thing that left Zod, to leave Zod alive. Or to kill Zod, I mean. And again, if you were expecting anything different, you were just setting your own stuff up for disappointment. Zod even says in the final battle between him and Clark that one of us is going to make it out of this alive, okay? Someone's going to die in this battle. He says it flat out right there. So I didn't think of it as, it didn't come as any surprise to me that Superman was going to kill Zod in this movie, or Zod was going to die in any other way. And I know some people may argue that, well, they could have just put him back in the Phantom Zone. Yeah, that's true, but if you put him back in the Phantom Zone at the same time that Faora and all the other guys got pulled back into the Phantom Zone, people would have bitched and moaned that that was a really anticlimactic ending and there was no final battle between him and Superman. You would just have people bitching about that then. So why bitch about it that Superman ended up killing Zod when it was totally expected? It's the most responsible thing to do. So I didn't find that bad at all. And going back to the action quick, I know I've already talked enough about the action, but a lot of people bitch about the property damage in this movie. I'm dead serious. That's a quote-unquote legitimate complaint about this movie, which is, oh, I didn't like Man of Steel because the property damage. Oh my god, the property damage was ridiculous, it was unrealistic, and it was stupid. So let me get this straight. Buildings falling down, too many buildings falling down, and shit blowing up is too unrealistic for you. But a guy flying around in a blue suit with a big-ass S on his chest, that's not ridiculous. But buildings and shit blowing up, that's where I cross the line. The line's in the sand. No. I can totally take seriously a guy in a red cape flying around shooting lasers out of his eyes, but buildings and shit blowing up, no, not for me. No. No. That is stupid. That is a stupid idea. And again, you can hate this movie for all you want, but the people that actually hate this movie solely for that reason alone, you're an idiot, okay? And I don't say that about a lot of people, but you're an idiot. This is a Superman movie, again. When he comes down to it, Superman movie, you gotta have action in it. So that was just another way of having the action be in the fucking movie, okay? And when you really think about it realistically, if you're gonna have Superman and another Superman essentially fight in the middle of a fucking city, what do you think's gonna happen? People say that Superman causes more property damage than he does save people from property damage. Zod blew up the fucking middle of the city with the World Engine. I think the only thing that I find unrealistic about this scene is how everything goes back to normal the next couple days. Like, Clark Kent goes into the Daily Planet and the Daily Planet's fine? I could have sworn the place got blown to shit later. Unless this scene takes place like 2 years later and all Metropolis is fixed. But then again, I think Metropolis would take way more than 2 years to be fixed after that whole thing. It wasn't like the whole city that was leveled, it was just that one section where the World Engine was in. So I didn't mind that at all. When you really think about it, the action wasn't all... Like, it was ridiculous. Like when I first saw this movie, I was thinking to myself, how are they at all going to fix everything that happens in this movie? How are they at all going to fix that in the sequels? It's going to take way more longer than they say it's going to take to fix this entire giant city. That's something that I thought of when I first saw the movie. When you really think about it, it was only that one area of the city that was pretty much leveled. But a couple other parts of the city were kind of messed up, but it was just that one area. So I didn't mind that at all. And, you know, Superman killing Zod, I didn't mind that at all. It was expected. It was a responsible thing to do. He was going to kill that family. He was put between a rock and a hard place. Like, you know, I know a lot of people could say that, well, Superman could have flew Zod away and fought him somewhere else. But yeah, he could have, but you would have had people bitching and moaning that the action scene went on for too long, which they already do. Which is already a pretty stupid fucking claim to have about this movie, isn't it now? Huh? Some of these, listen, you can hate the movie, that's fine, it's your opinion, it's my opinion too that I like it, but if you didn't like the movie, that's fine, but have, like, a legitimate complaint about it, and other than the property damage in it, like the Avengers! You're gonna bitch about this movie and property damage? Go and watch the Avengers! Go and watch the Avengers. The whole Manhattan got leveled and destroyed and fucked up. Maybe not as much as this movie, but still, it got fucked up. Seriously. And people say that the action in this movie was just a ripoff of the Avengers. Because, you know, Yeah, it's pretty uncommon to have a comic book superhero movie where there's a giant fight in the city. Because, that totally just came from the Avengers. The Avengers totally had a big giant fight in the middle of a city. That was the first comic book movie to ever have a big giant fight in the middle of a city. Totally, there has never been any other comic book movies that have had, big giant fights in the middle of a city. Superman movies, they've definitely never had a big giant fight in the middle of a city. Yeah, Superman 2 never had that at all. Oh, totally not. No, not at all. No. So there being a big fight in the city, in the middle of the city in this movie, totally an Avengers ripoff. Totally an Avengers ripoff. Just totally an Avengers ripoff. Just nothing. And Superman has killed countless times before in the comic books and in other movies. He did it in Superman 2. He threw Zod down the pit, down the empty, bottomless pits in the Fortress of Solitude, and with Ursa, Non, and Zod. Ursa and Non, and he threw Zod down those fucking pits. He killed Doomsday in Smallville. He killed Doomsday in the comic! In the original comic, he killed Doomsday. Why? Because it was a responsible thing to do. He killed him in that. That was a responsible thing to do in that book. But you don't bitch about that, do you? Or months before this thing came out, it was April, May, 2-3 months before this movie came out, Injustice came out. Injustice. And what did that game have? Fucking Superman impaling the Joker with his fist. He killed the Joker in that game. He killed Shazam. Sure, it was an alternate dimension Superman. Still Superman nonetheless. You people bitch that I killed Zod in this. Oh, Superman would never fucking kill. He's never fucking killed before. Bullshit. He's done it before. Countless times before. Although that's a really sad day when Superman, the Man of Steel, Mr. Truth, Justice in the American Way, ends up killing more people than Batman. You would probably expect Batman to kill more people, not Superman. No. So if you're gonna bitch about it in this movie, go bitch in those comic books that you think are so sacred. Superman's killed before. We've seen him kill before. So don't bitch in this movie saying that Superman killed Zod. Because he did it before to Zod. He did it before to countless other characters. So stop your bitching, please, with that claim. That's something that actually a lot of people that really hated this movie kind of think to themselves and say, that actually was kind of a dumb complaint. A lot of people that hate this movie have kind of said, yeah, it makes more sense that Superman would have killed Zod. So a lot of people that hate this movie have sort of made up with, have grown accustomed to that whole thing happening. And I really hope, and that's something that was actually kind of ruined by the ending of this movie. The ending just, the movie didn't really end. It just sort of stopped, and I really hated that about this movie. The whole ending didn't at all address that Superman killed Zod, and, the next scene is literally just Clark smiling, saying, oh, I'm so glad that the day is saved. And Martha Kent doesn't at all say, don't you think, are you kind of regretting that you killed Zod? It's not like Superman wanted to kill Zod in this movie. He pleaded with Zod that he didn't want to do this. He was the last other Kryptonian on Earth that was existing. He didn't want to kill him, and when he did kill him, he screamed in agony, and he was in tears. He was just sad as hell that he had to do this. He didn't want to do it. He didn't. But the next scene afterwards has Clark perfectly fine, not at all addressing that he killed this dude, and that's just something I really hated about this, and that's the thing that I really want them to address in Batman vs. Superman, or the Man of Steel sequel, which is having Superman, choose to do, he chose to do the right thing by killing Zod, but also looking for an alternative to that. Instead of having, Superman, at the end of the movie, of the end of Man of Steel sequel, he should have him pummeling whoever villain's in the movie to a bloody pulp, and then one more punch is going to kill this dude, and Superman just stops, and he's like, no, you're going to jail, and just puts him in jail. That would be cool. He's haunted by killing Zod. That should be explored in the next movie. But if it isn't explored, that's going to make me just fucking hate this movie and really take it down a peg. So I really hope it's explored in the next movie. I don't want to say that that problem is solved because it will be explored in the next movie. I don't know if it's going to be explored in the next movie. And if it's not, I'm going to be pissed off. But I think that is definitely something that should be explored in the next Superman movie. It's just something that it only makes sense to have that explored. It only makes sense to go further into that. Just makes it, again, makes sense. So that's something I really, really hope that they do. But damn, I don't know where to go. I'm kind of, I think I covered enough ground that I needed to. I already talked about the action scenes and, you know, a bunch of other stuff. I didn't like the way that Jonathan Kent died. On the topic of stuff that I didn't like, I like the ending. Going back to the ending for a second before I go to the Jonathan Kent thing, if I could explain the ending a little bit more, the ending just... it went by too fast, and again, it didn't address that Superman killed Zod. It almost completely ignored that, so I didn't like the ending for that. I thought they should have addressed, like, you know, Superman killing Zod and whatever, but again, going back to Jonathan Kent and his dying, I didn't like that. I really didn't like that at all. I mean, one of the things that I love about Superman, one of the many flaws about Superman, is that even with all his great powers, and even with all the magnificent things he can do, he can't stop people from dying. And that's something that I really hate in this movie, which is the line that Jor-El says when Superman is flying out to go save Lois after she falls from the World Engine, which is that, you know, he says, you know, you can save them. You can save all of them. No, he can't. That's something that the comics, I love that the comics addresses that. Superman cannot be everywhere at once, and that's something, and Superman cannot save every single person. Eventually, there will be blood on Superman's hands. He can't save everybody, even if he is Superman. And that's something that I love. I love Jonathan Kent's death scene in the original Superman movie, which is just him dying as something as simple as a heart attack. Like, it showed that Superman, even with all his great powers, couldn't save, you know, he can't save everybody. And that's something that in this movie I really hated, was that he could have saved them, but Jonathan Kent was just like, no. I need to go be in Field of Dreams. See you, kid. It was stupid. He could have saved them. But I like the death in the original is because that they showed that, you know, again, Superman with all his great powers can't save, you know, everybody, and he couldn't save his dad then, but here he could have saved him. His dad just didn't let him, just didn't allow it. I didn't like that. I thought that was really annoying. That was actually some complaint I had with this movie way back when I did my first impressions video. I didn't like that. I thought that it was very, very stupid. And it makes me hate that scene even more because Jor-El says in the movie, you know, you can save, again, you know, you can save them, all of them. It's like, no, he can't. He definitely proved that when Metropolis got fucking leveled. I don't think he saved everybody there. I definitely think there were a lot of casualties there. So, yeah, that's something I hated in this movie. I wish that was maybe the lesson. Like, that was another lesson that Superman learned, is, like, you can save them, all of them. Superman just thinking, yeah, with all my great powers, I can save all of them. And then he was just like, you know, I can't save everybody. And I hope that's something that they explore in the sequel. Again, something that they hope that they make up for in the sequel. That's something I really, really hope. And, I'm forgetting this one thing. I was about to talk about it. I think it has to do with Lois Lane. Damn it. What was it? I already talked about the action. I talked about some of the stuff. It was something I didn't like in this movie, believe it or not. God, I'm gonna get. I'm really blanking on this. I loved the Krypton, the way Krypton looked. Like when I did my my Superman the movie review, the first Superman film from 1978. I mentioned that I wanted to see more of Krypton in this Superman movie, and even little stuff like that, they got right. Like, there was a lot more Krypton in here. I thought the design was a lot more, you know, original, and a lot of people say that, oh, it's just a ripoff of Avatar. There was only one thing in the movie where I thought it was a ripoff of Avatar, which was that whole flying dragonfly bird thing that Jor-El was flying on. But that was about it. Like Krypton looked pretty industrial and pretty grim and grimy looking. Like, it didn't, like, the last time I checked in the movie Avatar, Pandora was a forest. This was not a forest. This was the only thing that was akin to Avatar was, again, the whole dragonfly bird that Jor-El was flying on, a Haraka, whatever the name was. This movie, like, you know, Pandora was a fucking jungle. This is an industrial, you know, weird looking alien, you know, planet. It didn't look jungle. It looked very industrial and very steampunk and technologically advanced from a jungle. It didn't look like Pandora at all. And I thought it was a great design step up from the original Krypton, the original Superman movies, because Krypton in the original movie, it didn't look like an alien planet. It looked like the Antarctic. It never looked like an alien planet to me. Like, you take an image of that from the original Superman movie and give it to someone that doesn't know what it looks like and doesn't know what it's from, they'll probably say, oh, it's the Antarctic? It's ice? I don't know. It didn't look like an alien planet. It looked like Antarctic. Here, it looked like an alien planet with a lot of different elements taken from other, sci-fi, fantasy, whatever films. So, I liked that. I liked Krypton. I thought it looked really, really cool. I even thought Jor-El was really, really awesome, and it gives them a cool way to have them be utilized and used in other Superman movies. So I really like that. I think that's going to be really awesome. Hope to get Russell Crowe back. I thought he was, fine in the movie. Same thing with Kevin Costner. A lot of people say that there are bland actors, and trust me, they are. But this movie, I thought they were fine, especially with Kevin Costner in the scenes, in the flashbacks. And that was another thing. A lot of people bitch at the flashbacks were completely unnecessary. The flashbacks were not unnecessary. They were completely brought up when they needed to be brought up. They weren't just like, oh, hey, flashbacks, put them anywhere where they needed to be. It doesn't matter if they don't fit, just put them anywhere. It wasn't that at all. They were utilized and put in places where they needed to be put and where it was necessary, where it fit the scene. I thought it was fun. That's something about this movie that a lot of people, something I've been really noticing. When one complaint that a lot of people have with this movie gets debunked, and a lot of people point out that it's not really a complaint, they move on to another thing. Like, when the movie first came out, it was, oh, there's too much action in it. Well, it's a Superman movie. What do you expect? Well, I don't like the flashbacks. The flashbacks there was too many of them. They were out of order, and they had no reason to be there. It's like, well, no, they were fine where they were. They were necessary. They were put in places where they needed to be put. And, if I'm mistaken, you guys sure as hell like Batman Begins, which had a shit ton of flashbacks. And I don't want to hear anyone bitching me saying, well, they weren't in Batman Begins because they were in order. There were some flashbacks that were out of order. Don't give me that shit. There were some that were out of order. Most of them were in order, but some of them were out of order. Same thing here. Some of them were out of order. I didn't mind that at all. I mean, if you had the story told in chronological order, like people bitch that, oh, well, why are they in flashbacks? They should have just been told in chronological order. You would have had people bitching and moaning saying, the story was told in chronological order, which is too similar to the first Superman movie, so it would have been nice if they changed that. I mean, after all, this is a reboot. It's supposed to do things differently. I am sure as shit they would have bitched at that. They would have said, oh, why is it in order? You should have had it be done out of order in flashbacks. So, I don't want to hear anyone saying that, oh, it should have been in order. Because you would have bitched that it was in order if it was in order and done chronologically. It's too similar to the first movie. It's a reboot. It has to do some things differently. It's not all going to be the same. It's not going to be the same Superman that you saw from those movies. It's going to be different. So, deal with it. That's the way it's not the Superman I grew up with, but, it's Superman that I love still. I still love the Superman in this movie. But I think that about does it. I really think that's about does it. I'm blanking on the other thing, but I still enjoy Man of Steel a whole hell of a lot. And you know what? I with all the complaints I still have, I can still get over them. I'm not as mad as some of the complaints that I mentioned before. There are none that ruin the film. I'm really not taking anything away from the movie because I still love this movie. I'm still giving it a 10 out of 10. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm not ashamed to admit that this is a 10 out of 10 film for me because I enjoyed it. It doesn't matter if you enjoyed it or you enjoyed it or you enjoyed it. It's all a matter of, opinion. And in my opinion, I thought it was a good movie. If in your opinion you thought it was a bad movie, whatever. It's your opinion. I'm not saying that it's wrong. Don't say my opinion's wrong because then I won't say your opinion's wrong. I'm not saying your opinion's wrong. If you didn't like the movie, fine. Whatever. No big deal. I like the movie, so it should be no big deal to you. It's my opinion, so it doesn't matter. So I still love this movie. I still really love this movie. I may look, maybe too far into some stuff, but I still love Man of Steel with all my heart, and I don't think that's going to change for a very long time. Now, this is, as the title does say, a Blu-ray movie review, so I do now need to get into the Blu-ray features, which is, oh god, this is a really lengthy fucking video, but let's get into some of the Blu-ray special features quick. Now, I got a special Target exclusive Blu-ray DVD pack, which is pretty cool. It does come with a lot with the special features found on the Blu-ray, which I will get into in a minute. But the whole case for this Blu-ray movie is literally a booklet. Like, the middle of the book is a booklet of concept art and of concept art from the movie. And you guys, as some of you guys already know, I'm a huge sucker for Blu-ray, for concept art, because I love seeing how the movie, or the game or whatever, would have been if they had ended up going with a lot of this concept art. I love concept art, so this was a must-buy for me. And I got it on the first day, so it was only $20. So not only did I get the Blu-ray and the basic copy DVD as well as special features, but I got a 60-page booklet. Like, this still is being sold at Target, not for $20, but still being sold at Target. I think it's even worth like $25, $30, because this is just amazing. This is great looking. The concept art looks great, and it's a great, nice little special DVD case. Like, you still have the DVDs here, and you got the booklet in the middle, and you got the other DVDs over here. But it's great. It's really, really awesome. So that's a nice sort of exclusive, special Blu-ray feature for this Target exclusive. It's Target exclusive, so if you want to get this anywhere, you can probably find it online somewhere other than on Target.com, like maybe eBay has this thing, but Target exclusively, so if you want to get this anywhere, get it at Target. It's really, really awesome. But now I'm going to get into some of the Blu-ray special features. I'm trying to, you have the essential stuff, like behind the scenes look, like, you have this one, which is Journey of Discovery, Creating Man of Steel, which is, I believe, it says right here, which is watching the movie with, Zack Snyder, and that's something about this movie the special features I really love about this movie. Now, a lot of these superhero comic book movies don't have audio commentary by, like, the cast and the directors and everything, but this does have it. It kind of doesn't have it. What it is you'll go onto the movie, and I believe this is on the special features disc, the special features bonus disc, which is, you buy them, which is you play the movie, but in certain sections of the movie, it will break away to a behind-the-scenes look at the sets. Like, if there's a certain set that somebody wants to comment on, the movie will stop, and then another screen will pop up where they'll go and give details on what the set looked like and what the actors were doing while they were filming it. It's really, really interesting, and you still do get audio over the actual movie. It's really interesting commentary. This is the next evolution of commentaries. I would love to see more of this. This is a great, like, extensive behind-the-scenes look at commentaries. Like, you ever listen to a commentary where someone's saying, like, oh, that was really cool to film, and it was really cool behind the scenes, and the set was so great? Well, they can actually now show you how cool the set was, and give you more exclusive, in-depth look at the actual set, instead of just saying, oh, that was really cool set, I wish we could show you it, but we can't because it's audio commentary. This shows you, this can now, has the luxury of showing you, the actual set, everything that went into making the set. It's really, really interesting commentary, and I wish that some future movies will utilize this way of doing commentaries and, will utilize it and just show more. It does more. It's great for audio. It's also visual, and it just shows you more about. It gives you more of an idea of what they're talking about. It gives you more behind the scenes. Great commentary. You also do get some of the usual stuff, like them, behind the scenes making of the movie, like what the actors thought about their characters that they were playing, such as like all-out action, and this special Blu-ray pack, the Target exclusive Blu-ray comes with X-Ray Vision, which it says 5 featurettes take you behind the scenes to explore pivotal moments from Man of Steel through the eyes of the creators, cast, and crew. I haven't checked that one out yet, but it sounds pretty cool. Again, I talked about the 64-page little concept art booklet. That was really, really awesome to do. And this is probably my favorite special feature on the DVD, which is literally a fake documentary of, it's like, the title of it is Planet Krypton, and from that title you would probably think, oh, they're going to, like, the cast and crew are going to talk about how they, what their thoughts were of redesigning Krypton, and how they did redesign Krypton, what their inspirations were for redesigning Krypton. That's what I was expecting. That's probably what a lot of other people were really expecting. That's not at all what you get. What you get instead is a fake documentary. Like, this is something that would be seen on, like, Ancient Aliens, or, like, on the Discovery Channel, or on the History Channel, or whatever, which is, like, a fake documentary of the planet Krypton. Like, you live inside this DC universe, and this is a documentary that they're having on the planet Krypton. And this documentary, this little fake documentary, also has A number of references to other DC Universe characters, Cyborg, and Superman, Supergirl. So that's a fucking plus, of course. So that's my favorite special feature on the Blu-ray. And also talking about the Blu-ray, the sound and picture quality is, as usual, a lot of Blu-rays, amazing. It looks beautiful. And the movie itself, even in not in HD, and even in not with the sound quality, is still beautiful. Like, Zack Snyder was a great, great, great directing decision to direct this movie because, you know, even if the movie ended up sucking story-wise, which a lot of people do agree it is, but I disagree, it would have looked like it would have looked beautiful. And it definitely looks beautiful. Like, you can turn the sound off on this movie, and you'll still enjoy it as much as you have with the sound on. It's great. It's beautiful looking, and the HD and sound quality just enhances that perfectly. And it makes Superman's cape look really awesome. That was something that another little thing, you know, just throwing in there that I'm just now remembering. Superman's cape in this movie was almost 90% CGI. Like, rarely was Henry Cavill Cavill ever wearing a cape. It was mostly CGI rendered, which makes it makes sense. It makes the cape blowing in the wind the whole cape blowing in the wind effect a lot more easier to do. So I enjoyed that a lot. I thought that was really, really awesome. It was hard to tell. It was really hard to tell, even with the HD, that was a CGI cape. And the same can be said with General Zod's armor or the whole Kryptonian's armor. It was really hard to tell if that was actual metal and that was actual, like an actual armor and costume. It was hard to tell. It was really, really extremely hard to tell. But that about does it for my review. Yeah, longest video I've ever done. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I love this movie. If you guys loved it too, then that's great. But yeah, it's a great movie. I love this movie. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah, I love Man of Steel. I love Man of Steel, and I thought this was a great way to compliment his 75th anniversary ever. Couldn't have done it any better. Yeah, 75 years. 75 years Superman has been around. From 1938 to 2013 has been 75 years. It's pretty damn impressive. Superman was created in 1938, and this year marks his 75th anniversary. But because of Superman's popularity, Batman was created and debuted a year later in 1939. This year's 2000. This year is Batman's 75th anniversary. You can bet your asses I got something planned this year. Good night.